Many people, when they awaken, experience something that often is referred to as presence. It's a feeling of all-encompassing awareness and consciousness. It has a certain quality, a tonality of comfort, joy, clarity, knowing. And a lot of times one feels in an awakening experience that one has arrived. Of course, nothing has changed really. And where you have arrived is where you are. And arriving at where you are is quite a shock, because you've been there all this time and you haven't been present to it. You've been involved in it, you've been doing, you've been active, you've had a life, you've had all this stuff, comings and goings, and yet rarely, except maybe an occasion listening to music or standing in front of something in a museum that shocks your system, you have a glimpse or a moment of because beauty can give you presence and love can give you presence. But that's very momentary. On the other hand, it's an indicator of something that for most of us day to day is kind of missing. We don't think about it. We don't really exactly even know about it. It's only when it arrives and it announces itself that you go, that. And it's incredibly familiar because it's always been there. And once you have an awakening, there is a sense that this is a permanent state. And in a way it is, because it's never not there, even for people who haven't awakened. It's always present. Presence is always present. Except there's an element, even in awakened beings, although I'm going to speak for myself and not for all awakened beings, there is another quality of being that most of us experience. We don't name it really, but I will. It's called absence. Absence is the disappearing of presence. It really doesn't go anywhere because it can't, but suddenly it is no longer vibrating, if you will, within your system. You are no longer awake to it. It has disappeared. One of the signatures of a disappearing awareness or consciousness of absence is anxiety, stress, sadness, moodiness, depression, all of these things that everyone is familiar with. Kind of comes and goes, or can really come and stay for long periods of time. And when it goes, you feel better, you're happy. You don't necessarily know that presence has returned, but you feel good that absence, with its signatures of sadness and depression and all of that, has lifted up. It's, kind of lifted up in a way. And then there you are, back to your normal self, which in most cases for unawakened beings is just a happy-go-lucky, I know that's too simple a term, but a generalized sense of I'm in the world and doing my thing, living a life day to day. And it feels good. Most of us like that because it actually is full of presence. And even though we don't give it a name, it just feels like, I'm alive. I can go visit friends. I can run to the supermarket. I can turn on the TV. I can go to bed. And life is kind of what life is. It's not appreciated at its highest level or deepest level, but it is experienced with presence. But absence is really complicated. And it's complicated because it has so many aspects that really make us feel something is missing, like joy, like being alive, like trusting the next moment will be okay. Suddenly, all that kind of stuff leaves us, and we're left with this absence or this sense of uh, despair, no trust, fear of future, all of these things that come up. And sometimes they are completely a personal experience. Nobody around you is experiencing it, so you feel very alone in it. And sometimes it comes up in a social way. You start to feel it outside you, other people going through it. And of course, the pandemic created a certain subclass of people who were stressed by it all, who were really lost in it, who feared for the future and themselves in the future. And that was a real part of the pandemic. And then the pandemic has, in our particular social space, subsided for the moment. And this newness of return to, quote, presence is confusing for many people because they're holding on to old patternings. They're not trusting what's arriving. They have a fear of what is further down the road. They have now tasted emptiness or isolation or whatever it was that the pandemic brought that made them feel singled out in a way, or even communally unhappy or sad or distressed. Now, I know I'm not talking for everyone because there were a lot of people, I'm probably one of them, who really found the pandemic period very calming, very comforting. I didn't have to go out and do, I didn't have to be part of anything. All I had to do was wake up in the morning and I was already awake internally. So everything was beautiful to me. Inside it was beautiful, outside was beautiful, the world was beautiful, my wife was beautiful, everything was wonderful. The end of the pandemic hasn't really shifted things exactly for me, but I'm seeing it shift things for others in a way until recently, when I began to experience a very strong and prolonged sense of absence. And I haven't had prolonged senses of absence for a while. I've had momentary elements of it, and I looked to them as spiritually vibrantly important because I had to find in the absence that even nothingness, emptiness, meaninglessness, purposelessness was contained, if you will, in the field of consciousness, of awareness, of a larger presence. But I became aware in presence of absence. I didn't really know that was part of my journey. Part of the hubris of awakening is thinking you've got it forever. And in a way you do. But the awareness that absence can occur no matter what your level of development, and I don't like to talk about levels exactly, but in an awareness of being, when you have experienced really great deep presence, nothing else is wanted. Nothing. You are deeply, profoundly satisfied by the what is. Moment to moment, it is like, thank you. True gratitude. So when the universe comes in and goes and takes that all away, it's a whole new level of spiritual work. It can happen in the depths of an awakened soul. It can happen to just the normal day-to-day person who has no concept of spiritual awakening or presence or anything. It happens. It happens rather repeatedly. In a spiritual sense, there is a depiction of Krishna and the gopis. The gopis dance in joy for Krishna's presence. They play their flute, and or Krishna plays his flute, but they dance, and they love Krishna's presence. And then he hides behind a tree, and it's like, oh my God, he's gone. How did that happen? Now what? Will Krishna ever come back? We have lost it. We're in great harm. We're scared. All of these things start to arise in the dancing gopis who stop, I assume, dancing. And then Krishna reappears over and over and over. And their joy and their delight and their gratitude is massive. It comes back to them, and they start dancing again for Krishna, who again disappears. It's ongoing. It's a little bit like the seasons. Summer arrives, fall comes, winter comes, spring comes, summer comes, and it keeps happening. Do you, in the middle of winter, decide that there will never be another summer? Well, you may go through moments like that, but proof of past history is it will come back. Krishna will return. The dancing will reoccur. You will find joy and happiness and presence again, even though you may be experiencing a sense of absence. I talk about this because, especially among awakened people, some of whom have been calling me, and I've talked about this, people are experiencing more absence than they're used to. And because of our training with Rudy and the work that we do, and because of the lessons I have learned over a half a century of practice, the work doesn't stop. The work is accept, open, dig, go deeper, and don't despair. Don't give in to despair. Don't give in to the anxiety. Allow it to be. Allow all of what is to arise and manifest itself as it will without your getting caught in it or reacting to it. This is not easy. I can tell you that from my own day-to-day practice. Blanche will acknowledge this. There are moments of real struggle. Absence is so painful, so potent, so taking away of all expectation, all promise, all future, everything. And if it wasn't for the arriving of the image of the gopis dancing for Krishna, I would find myself wanting. But that image that arose was very meaningful. And you have to kind of ask, well, where did that come from? Why did that come? This morning, this last week, in fact, for me has been totally filled with absence. Really hard week. Lots of pain. I don't like discussing all of my bodily stuff with you, and I won't, but a lot of stuff going on. And the curers, people I go to see to give you help, have been failing on every level. And I just thought, how do I sit in front of you guys this morning? This has come up for me before, but today it was pretty big. And I was sitting at the breakfast table this morning with Blanche, feeling like, oh boy. And then all of a sudden, because you guys were showing up, presence came. It had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with you. Presence arose because I was about to show up in your space as a giver, a transmitter of presence. And because the universe truly, truly loves you and cares about you, it brought me up into this state of transmission where I could sit with you and give you what you need. Not I, Bruce, I, presence. Presence arose because it needed to be there so that this process could be what it is. I don't know why it is so respected by these forces that they would break up this week of deep absence for you. I was a beneficiary of that. I don't know if In a half hour from now, I'll be going back into absence. It kind of doesn't matter. It matters because I don't like it. It feels like a loss. It feels like emptiness. It feels like purposeless. On the other hand, I know from all of my training, if I can sit there and witness the going away, the fading away of everything, and still be there, not present in an active, joyful, conscious way exactly, but just very observant, very still pointed, very conscious, and just be with that. That's my training. That is my spiritual training. The Lord giveth and the Lord bringeth back, taketh away and giveth. You know, we are part of some cyclical movement. We're part of something very, very large. We're part of something, I think, wildly beyond our comprehension, intelligent. It has a kind of purposefulness that I cannot give full voice to. But I can only tell you that I have, over the course of a half a century of sitting, found that it is loving, caring, uh, of service to all of us. And that I have been given an opportunity to be a spokesperson for, a vehicle for it. Part of my becoming available to it is to become more and more expanded, more and more like a bigger hose, so more can flush through the system. Part of that, it seems to me, is getting rid of presence, which maybe in some way almost inhibits how much flow there is and allows this emptiness to become greater and greater and greater. In other words, to erase the you from the equation. Erasing you from the equation is, I've said this week by week, I think, something we've all bought into, and yet most of us really cannot know what that means. You cannot really know what it means to be erased. But because I am here 2 steps ahead of you, maybe, I can tell you it's really compelling. Parts of you just start to go. And you don't even know they're gone because you're not exactly watching it. It's just when you try to call on parts of the self, it's just not there. Mostly it doesn't matter. But part of what does matter and part of what you will feel is when a sense of directionality, purpose, and service, which are sort of the keystones of why you keep playing this game spiritually, when even those are taken away, when the idea that you have any value at all in this is just lifted out of the equation, there is nothing there. There's nothing there. And it's very weird to be aware of that nothingness, of that absence. When presence does arise, it is very easy to glob onto it. But because I know now that it comes and goes, globbing on seems like a stupid idea. So I'm just trying to go, aha, okay. I watch it come and I watch it go. The hard part is that for me during the past week, with a lot of physical stuff going on, there was a lot of fear-based things happening. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of emotionality, a lot of depression even. And, you know, when you're a spiritual teacher and you've been practicing for all these years, it's very humbling to experience such intense human suffering. And yet you do. And you do, hopefully, from a place that is a little different than most people. Like you don't necessarily turn to alcohol and drugs. You don't try to find your way out of this thing. You try to find your way into it. Find your way into going, okay, It's really hard. It's a practice. It's many ways what Rudy taught us. Open and ask for help to surrender to the what is. If you're looking for this incredible promise of freedom from all of that, then you have to sign on to a different teacher or a different teaching. There are other places you guys can go that will be so much more promising. And I would probably go there myself if I trusted that there was something being offered. But I feel what's being offered is reality and truth on an ever expanding scale, and that it includes everything. And we are part of one with, and maybe the very core absolute reality itself. I know in my experience that I have touched and witnessed something so much bigger than daily life. And I know that it is. And on many occasions, they allow me to walk with that. But then there are moments, and they're certainly occurring now, where I'm very aware that the materialized world is in a very fragile state, and that there's a lot going on right now that is disturbing to the system. And if you are very empathetic to the world's condition, you will find yourself possibly struggling, like being depressed or sad or helpless or hopeless or whatever it is that starts to come up. And as I said before, as a dramatist, as a writer of narrative fiction, I know that the things you put into the first act are going to play out in the third act. You know, it's an old idea in an opera. If you put a gun in the first act, someone is shot with that gun in the third act. There's a lot of stuff going on, being buried, if you will, into the culture around us. Anyone who reads the newspaper, anyone who watches the news, God bless you, realizes it's a really complicated world right now. We have to find a way to be stabilized, quiet, non-reactive in some way to all the stuff that's coming at us. And if you are open and available to the larger picture, you know this is not an easy moment, which means you can get depressed and get angry and get frustrated and fearful, or you can do all of that and work hard to find a stability inside, a depth inside that goes, yes. The world has always been thus. The world has always been filled with drama and tension and eruption. It has always been like that from the beginning of time. And man has always related to this stuff with fear and anger and jealousy and apprehension and all of these kinds of things that come up. And then there have always been teachers who've kind of come and said, relax, trust this, because you can become a countervailing force to all of the disruption by being a source of reaching out, comforting, holding hands. And it will be supported in the same way that this morning, when I was about to sit with each of you, presence arose in such a big way because it wanted you to benefit from that. It wanted to take you in and hug you and comfort you and make you feel okay, maybe better than okay, maybe loved and appreciated, but it wanted something for you, and it used me, and I'm grateful for that, to present that. In this arising of stuff that we will watch over the coming years, and it's not weeks, and it's the next several years, for so many years, real transformational change that's going to require us to work hard and to be available to others during this time. And I know I repeat this now because I'm sensing from so many people a disruptive aspect. something going on inside, this tension, this fear, this apprehension, this anxiety. And I feel in the space of my own tension and anxiety, this need to transmit something else. And I hope it's being transmitted, and I hope you receive it, because you guys are loved. You are loved. And when I sit here and open, the love that pours forth for you is unbelievable. And if you can take in even drops of it, it will help you get through so much of what's happening. It will give you additional energy, as Rudy used to call it. It will give you Shakti Pat. It will give you something to deepen your own reality, who you are, why you're here, and then help you to become the vehicle of that for other people. That's a great thing. It's a truly great gift. So we are in this together. The awakened among us, the great souls who are truly way beyond, if I can imagine this, anything I can talk about. I think they are in the same place that I'm referencing. They too are aware of what this world is and what it needs. This world goes through drama repeatedly. It probably goes through cycles of complete destruction. Impermanence was at the core of Buddha's teaching. We, and not just we individually, but our societies and our cultures and the planet itself is temporary. It's temporary. We may be living at a moment of seeing just how temporary it really is, and that is scary on some level. And so one has to become almost Buddha-like to be able to sit back and have a good day. Enjoy a glass of water. Enjoy going for a walk around the block. Enjoy the what is, even knowing that what will be is, as it has always been, truly unknown, possibly catastrophic, but it doesn't matter. Because in the end, for each of us, it is catastrophic, but that's simply the end of the material journey. And if you go deep enough inside and you start to really create root systems into the unmanifest self, what you get is this promise, this feeling, this awareness that the end of the outer manifestation is nothing compared to the arrival at the infinite and eternal that you are and have always been. This presence that comes up is an acknowledgement of that. It is such a gift. But even absent that gift, when all of this impermanent state of you personally, you societally, you in terms of the universe and the planet, all get totally sort of tossed away, one senses through this inner life that what remains is what has always been, this presence. And this presence, when it is really announcing itself, has a core level love and joy and beauty and graciousness that is at the source of all that is manifested. So here we are. My job today was to give word to absence, to give meaning to absence. So many people on this journey only want presence, only want fulfillment, only want completion, only want wholeness. I am here to tell you all of that will probably at some point be taken away. But they cannot take away the nothingness that is in truth the presence of being. That will remain, and if you can dig deep enough, surrender more powerfully than you've ever surrendered before, stay open, stay aware, even of your own neuroses. Just be aware of it, just watch it rather than indulge it. See it open to deeper and deeper places. You will understand why you've been drawn to spiritual practice, why you've been drawn to this practice or any other practice, why it has such a positive, reinforcing, nurturing reality that so many people cannot find in their day-to-day lives. They cannot find it. You know, I meet so many people, and the outer dialogue is so superficial. It's so unsatisfying. It doesn't reach deep. And with people who I know and care in this universe, we go somewhere. We talk about that which is in a way that really opens us up and makes life worth living for me. I've run out of television shows to watch at night, and I've been trying to go, oh my God, how do I find something that's just, not going to create tension and drama and suffering? And I was recommended a television program. It's on Hulu called Normal People. I'm not trying to sell it to you. I don't know if you've seen it, but Normal People is a love story with such delicacy and such believability and such reality. And I looked at it with Blanche and I were watching it, and I'm going, oh, it's a love story. It's just love. It's just this beautiful arising and the complications of love and rooting for love. And I realized I can watch this all week long. I can watch it as long as it wants to be on the air, because I don't want panic. I don't want drama and horrible things happening to people. I cannot visit that enough. All I have to do is watch the news for that. But a love story that's so sweet, and it just reminded me that we're all of us living a love story. Trust me on that. Even if we don't love each other, which is too bad, and you can work on that, but loving yourself or loving being alive, just feeling that, or allowing stillness and emptiness to be there long enough for this thing to rise up in you and go, love. It's just love. It's so simple. It's so small. It's so sweet. It's so available. And if you just get quiet enough and you let it arise, you can feel it in you. And then if you're good at this, you can share it with other people. You can give love to another human being. And just that connection, and this television show is just about two people who probably couldn't announce their love very vividly to the world, but their love filled me, overwhelmed me really with joy. And I say it again because there are things out there in the world that will lift us up, and there are things that will bring us down, and we can make choices, and we can be directed to that which is uplifting as opposed to that which is carrying us down into darkness and fear. So find with your deep breath, with your asking for help, find that simple space of love if you can find it. If you are introduced into absence, don't despair. The universe loves you. Call me, write me. The minute you guys appear in front of me, this love just comes surging through because you are loved. I know you are loved deeply, and I will make that available. Not me, Bruce, but this thing will come through for you because I watched it this morning. It just loves you, each of you. So on that note, I'll do something I forgot to do last week, which is I'll ask for questions. Are there any questions about any of this or anything at all? And if not, we all have a big day ahead of us, right? Todd.
Bruce. Oh, did you call me?
Carol, I'll start with you. Go ahead.
I just want to tell you how grateful I am that you do show up. And I know it probably, as you were saying today, it wasn't easy. And especially today, I'm grateful. I was so comfortable today in this meditation, and I'm going to have surgery, a little surgery on the 23rd. And what scares me is the being put out, the anesthetic. And I want to say it again.
That's my favorite part.
Oh God. And what I want to do, which was so perfect today for me, is get into that comfortable place that I was in today with you and feel that so that I can surrender and just let them put me out and let them do their thing. And so that's what I want. And I'm just so grateful that you show up.
It's available. Put yourself in good hands. You are in good hands, whether they're coming from this person or other people. Trust me, you're in good hands. The universe cares about you, even when it appears not to. And you will be put out, which will ultimately be very relaxing. It will happen so fast that you won't even know that it took place. The next thing you know, there'll be people around you asking how you are and caring about you, and you'll be grateful to still be there.
Yeah.
So this practice is just a signal to us into our deep or unconscious that we're okay, that there is a profound okayness in our lives. And when you're allowed to touch it in a really live wire way, which class will allow, it's very affirming. When it's not there for you in that way, sit quietly and meditate, and you'll find it rise up gently or maybe in a big way. Or you may experience absence. And if you experience absence, all I'm trying to teach you today is don't despair. It's a passing thing. It comes, and Krishna will reappear and the gopis will dance again.
And I'll dance again too.
Oh, absolutely. You're a gopi. Good luck with the operation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Jenny. Jenny, you have to turn on your mic. You have to push the mute button. Well, you figured, you got it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And it's so great to see you. And you look, I don't know, despite what you say you've been going through, you look younger than when you left California. How you do it. But I have a friend who has actually been depressed since he was 12 years old. And he's become so attached to that depression that he clings to it. Like it is his actual identity. And he's such a gifted and talented person and such a giving person. And and he's been in therapy for year after year. It goes back to a trauma when he was 12, but I mean, what can I do for that friend who is so attached that it would mean relinquishing his entire identity?
Well, that's the journey we're all on, and most people don't want to relinquish any part of their identity. That we're attached,
Right.
we're deeply attached. What you can do for him is minuscule, but show up and be present with him, and just let that envelop him. That's really all you can do. If he got inspired to do a spiritual practice or a journey, he would probably understand that being analytical, which is the way most people approach depression, is the most superficial version of that, because one has to go deeper. One has to get into the feelings of the heart, into the gut level, into the part of your sexuality that brings you into a rebirth and allows you to become a new person, to be born again as someone who's not depressed. That's a journey. You do not meet many people in this lifetime who are willing to or are conscious of the possibility of going on that journey, of becoming a new person, a new identity. It's such a big journey, and we're all on it. Some of us more effectively than others, but those of you who've appeared here year after year after year, that's a remarkable, remarkable thing. And I am nothing, the Bruce, the thing that comes through, so grateful to you because it's so unusual. Very, very few people in this life ever begin this journey. So the fact that you're on it brings me endless hope. And the fact that we can work together and you can try to take your development and you can help share it with others, not in an intellectual way, not saying do this, do that, but being a loving presence for them. That will help. It may not help a lot, and it may not help in the ways you're looking for, but it's the most you can do.
Thank you.
Todd, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. Thanks. Yeah, first of all, I'm deeply in awe and humbled by the energy that comes through the class. It's synchronicity, it's specificity, and it's love. And my experience today was like two very distinct yet very different types of pain. One was the pain of like expansion, noticing the experience of what happens when I begin to disappear and the grandiosity of it. And then the pain of like trying to identify in some way with it. And it was painful. And then the other side was, I guess, the emptiness of what happens when I collapse and forget all of that and try to live my life separate. And that was a very similar but distinct pain. And as you were talking, I got that thought like, no, not my pain, not my joy. Like I may be experiencing it, but it's not mine. And then I got a quote that was sent to me during class that I'll just quickly share with you that seemed to sum it up. And it was, I would not have you descend into your own dream. I would have you be a conscious citizen of this terrible and beautiful world.
Thank you. I mean, I think, there's nothing that I am sharing with this class that is new in the spiritual journey. It's been said for thousands of years. Each of us discovers it on our own. Each of us embodies it, and each of us transmits it as a new and living force. That's valuable because the living quality of it is really an important thing. And if you don't have that living quality, then it's just intellectually processed. It needs to be full-bodied. It needs to be honest and real and complete. And if you're trying to present somebody who is above it all, that will speak to some of you and some people. I don't know what that will do, but you have to be, I think, as real and embodied and as honest as you can be and witness this universe that we're all going through from as profound a space of detachment and yet love as you can allow. And that's what we're doing here. And I know you've been on this a long time and we've shared this a long time. So I have great gratitude for that. Thank you. Yes, Nate.
You said it a couple of weeks ago about being at a dinner party, maybe at your house or somewhere recently, and the way that you find yourself talking to other people who aren't necessarily within our community that get senses of what the work is, but may not know how to articulate it. And also people who don't really know what the work is and don't really think about it. And it made me, the past 5 or 6 months, it's interesting. I haven't known how to articulate it, but it's after your talk today, it seemed like quite the Krishna story and the dancing gojis. I think that's what you were calling
Gopis.
Gopis. I was thinking of goji berries for some reason dancing, but gopis. And I think that sometimes it's really along this journey, at least for me, because it hasn't been 50 years yet, there's a lot of feeling and awareness and presence that doesn't know how to be articulated. And something that I find so helpful coming to our community and sitting with you and the people that are a part of it is that, you go through these periods where you're so lost, and then one day a word or a quote or something just kind of ties up this entire experience you've been having. And it just makes the entire thing make sense. It kind of puts it all into perspective of, this push-pull that's been happening is exactly where the journey is. I find it really hard to articulate myself these days because it seems like such more of an experience than anything that can be put into words. So I'll stop there for today and just say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Being able to articulate it is a particular form of gift, and it really comes from the throat chakra. Excuse me. Not everybody has it. When this opens up more and more, you'll find the words flowing in a way. It has nothing to do with you. It's just you're more available to the flow. And it will occur for you because I know you. And even what you said just now, as you may have thought was not articulate, said exactly the right thing. So the journey into being human is so complicated and so difficult and so beyond the understanding of all of us, really, that we can just take the little we glean from each other. And often it's just one sentence that appears out of nowhere at any given moment that clarifies everything for a period of time. And then even that goes away. And then you have to continue blindly down the road until the next light is lit and you are finding your way through whatever it is you're having to go through. We're all doing this. And the only thing that really helps is knowing that when everything is taken away at some point from those people who've known that experience, everything being taken away, that absence is ultimately an ultimate presence.
I guess the part that I've found really, it can put any word in there, fascinating, scary, exciting, is that there are points where it's I can articulate, and then in the moments where I guess at the moment it feels as if everything that I've invested myself in has been taken from me. Anything I've identified myself with has been taken in the moment where it all seems to be becoming more intense, and those things would be lovely to have.
Well, prepare.
And this is just wonderful to be able to sit with everybody.
Well, things will be given and they'll be taken. It's really the way it is. And more is given and more is taken than you imagine. And in the end, it's all taken. And the hope upon hopes, and I suspect the truth is, what's given when they take everything is everything you could ever have wanted. But we'll see.
We'll
I
see.
may be wrong about that. But, and I apologize if that's the case. Maybe there won't be anyone to know if I'm wrong. And maybe if I'm right, you'll go, oh, Bruce promised that, or whatever, Buddha promised that, or no names at all. You'll just go, thank you. We'll see. We'll see. Anyone else? Okay, this is a long time talking. Thank you guys for showing up. I'm in the process of trying to figure out how we will go forward. And I don't have an answer. So I will let you know when I figure it out. These classes are meaningful, and as I explained this morning, it's not about me. So thank you for being here. It happens only because you are here.